Hi, Deanna. Just want to show you how to make yourself a scatter plot so you can work with some of these statistics a little bit better. First job is to clean up the data some, and I've done that here in the lower table right here. You can see we're going to keep the independent variable, your concentration of your nitrites, on the first column only. So I put your nitrite column. Doesn't matter what order it is, but your nitrite column is first. Then, since you have multiple measurements after that for the absorbance, we went ahead and made each of them their own column so that if I wanted to know how much absorbance it was at 48 hours for 200 parts per million in nitrites, I could just do that. Now, to make a table, I'm just going to highlight this information, and I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, not table, graph. For some reason, Google calls them charts, so here we are. And I'm going to move my guy right here to this side over here where it has the chart editor information. We'll make a scatter plot with this information. The data range is all correct, but there is some cleaning up to do with it. You can edit these legend pieces right here as much as you like by just editing what's in these boxes here. So if you just want to say 24 hours, boom, I'll just say 24 hours, okay? You can also edit this in other ways. If we go to the formatting of the chart stuff here, we can edit the style and change the background colors and stuff like that. We can maximize it so there's no lines on it, but that looks ugly. Not much to change really there unless you want to change fonts. But other things you might want to change include the title. So if you just want to say nitrite concentration affecting absorbance, and actually spell it right. Or if you want to call it something specific, totally fine there. And you can play around with this stuff as much as you like, including making yourself a vertical title axis and typing in this box over here instead, like absorbance. And include some units. You might want to double check on units there. But there we have the y-axis finally set up. Okay? Change the font all you like. When it says series here, you can change these dots, and you can make them bigger or smaller. So let's say you want to see each individual one and make them smaller. It might be hard to see it on a poster, so you can make them bigger. Up to you entirely. You can also change the axis to the right side if you wanted to. You can also change the points to be different shapes if you want to differentiate between each of these things. So let's say you're okay with them all being circles, that's fine. But let's say you wanted the 24-hour one instead to be a square, or you want it to be a light blue instead of a dark blue, or light green. There you go. You can do all that stuff and play around that as much as you like. One thing you might consider is, with all series, you might consider adding a trend line to show the different trends that we have for the different levels of concentration. Obviously, the concentration affects it most after the 72 hours based on this trend line. We can also change this data so that instead of it being after 24, 48, 72, we can have the time on the x-axis and have the absorbance over here and have the concentrations be at different points in the graph. Let me show you how to do that. So I've taken the same graph and I just turned it on its side here essentially by having the growth time as the x variable and the absorbance at different concentrations be the y variable. And so when we highlight this instead and make a chart, yes, there's still some cleaning up to do on the chart like that, but you have your different variances by concentration instead. One thing I didn't show you what else you can do is you can also change the y-axis to start at different values. So let's say you didn't want 0 to be the bottom of your graph here. That's totally fine. Make 1 the bottom, and all of a sudden now you can see more diversification in your table. You can also use log scale if you wanted to, but no one's going to understand that but you and me. What else could you do? You can change the grid lines so that they go up by specific numbers, or even have minor grid lines and add in little tiny numbers along with it. The same changes for the growth can be done right here on this scale. You can have 24 hours be your lowest one and 72 be your highest, and just have your axis, horizontal axis, go up by 24 hours, like that. Or you can even have 0 be your minimum, so it's not hanging on the edge here if you wanted to. So 0, there we go. See, lots of things you can play around with, for sure. In this one, you can also have those trend lines showing how dramatically your 200 parts per million are affecting them. Even with trend lines, you can show some correlational data. This is not Pearson correlation, but it is correlation, and R squared is something that you can have for like a value to show how correlated these numbers are. So looks like your 200 parts per million are very correlated, and your 10 parts per million are not, or are having less of an effect size. You'll have to play around with those statistics. I'm not a statistics expert by any means, but there is those. You can also add data labels, so you can add the numbers onto the graph there. You might want to change the bounds of your data in order to be able to fit all those numbers, but you can assort them to be positioned to the left of your numbers or beneath the numbers, whatever you wanted to in order to make it work. Finally, one thing you can change is the legend itself. If you don't like it at the top there, you can always put it on the right side only, or at the bottom underneath everything, or not have a legend at all and explain it in a caption instead. That's fine too. No matter what, once you have this graph, let's say you want to put this into your slideshow. So I'm going to open up a random slideshow, or your poster, I should say, or your paper even. I'm going to create a random one just for us. New slide. And once you hit paste, it'll ask you either if you want to link it to the spreadsheet or paste it unlinked. You'll want to link it to the spreadsheet for one reason. Because now, anytime I want to edit these numbers to make them look different, and any edits that I do for the table, I can just go back to the data and edit this. Let's say I wanted to edit the title of this to be absorbance over multiple days. Once that edit is made there, we update it to edit here. So every edit you do can then be updated without you having to play around with it at all over here. It's kind of great. That's it for making data tables or making charts and stuff. The data tables are about the same way. You just highlight stuff and edit it up here. I'm sure you can figure that out. You can add bars to make them succinct from each other. As far as statistics, if you only have one data point per trial, as in you did a 200 parts per million at 24 hours, and that's the absorbance that you got. You didn't do multiple trials with it. There's no reason to look at statistics overall because there's no change between one trial versus another, other than those that can be associated with the change in time or the change in parts per million of your nitrite. So I wouldn't worry about statistics unless you wanted to do, I can't even think of one off the top of my head that deals with non-repeating variables. I think this will be plenty to be able to demonstrate exactly what you want in this activity. So think about how you want to set up this chart for yourself here. Think about if there's anything else you want to play around with the data or convey with the data, if there is something. And let me know if there's some way I can help out with that. Otherwise, this video should be an easy way for you to understand how to set up and clean up your data before putting your chart together. Let me know how I can help.